You are now tuned into Flippin' the Birds, a Philly Sports Network podcast.
What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome all to episode 116 of Flippin' the Birds. I'm Brian Cameron alongside Morgan Burkett, and we're live for Eagles playoff football. But before we get to that, this podcast is presented by TickPick, where you get the same seats, better prices, and without all the hassle and fees of the other guys. So make sure you guys go to tickpick.com, and the link is actually in the description below. But first and foremost, we have activated Morgan off IR. So welcome back. It's been it feels like it's quite some time.
It's good to be back, man. I think I only missed 2 weeks, but it feels like a lifetime, man. I don't know.
I technically haven't seen you since last year.
Yeah, it's been crazy. How's your year going so far?
11 days in, it feels like wild, bro. It feels like a couple months in already.
Yeah, honestly. I mean, I don't know about you. I'm not big for New Year's resolutions, but it seems like the little changes that I did make are I don't know. It looks like it's a good start to the season. I mean, Birds are in the playoffs. Can't complain about that. Mm-hmm. And then I don't know. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling hopeful about 2022.
It feels like a breakthrough kind of year. Personally, for whatever we're looking out for at the end of the day, it feels like an outlook kind of year, which is positive.
Yeah.
What does suck is that COVID spikes are back up. So
we're back in lockdown essentially, which sucks. But I don't know. It is what it is, man. I feel like I'm starting to get used to it now. It's just once stuff opens again, it'll be weird having to socialize and stuff like that. But
it's a different world that we live in for sure.
Yeah.
Shout out to everybody that's joining us in the chat. So we are going to talk playoff football. We're going to actually kind of break the podcast into 3 segments. We're going to look at the season in review first. Then we're going to announce the winner of the DAWG Culture giveaway. And then after that, we'll talk Bucs versus Eagles. So it's been a wild season. I mean, I didn't get to pull out the clip, and I hope J-Fizz shows up somehow, some way. But I did declare that the Eagles would make the playoffs. But I did say they'll win 10 games, and they did not win 10 games, unfortunately, because they gave up in the last game. And they rested their starters, which is ideal. I don't know what the hell the Cowboys were doing playing their starters for 4 quarters, but
I mean, even that last game, it was good to see, man, because I think that when you can go into a game and play your backups and still look competent on offense, that's a big deal. And so that game, even though it was just backups, and still with a lot of comments, who cares about the 51 points? I mean, the Eagles defense, it wasn't even backups at that point. It was third stringers, people.
It was practice squad. What the hell is Dak Prescott doing playing against the practice squad?
I don't understand. And you saw it in the Bucs game and stuff like that, incentives for Gronk, stuff like that. But I don't think any of the Cowboys had incentives to be had. I don't know. I don't know what the Cowboys are doing. I mean, I'm happy for them that they didn't get any injuries, but even just with the risk, I don't understand why it mattered to them. I know they're trying to lock up a playoff position, but after it was 30-10 or whatever it was, just take them out. I don't really understand, but hey, whatever. I feel like the Eagles still look good with their backups in. So
that was a more eye-popping thing, man. I mean, the first half, you saw how close it was. The Eagles practice squad defenders, they weren't great looking, but they were doing decent enough to keep them within the game. Offensively, we saw Kenny Gainwell, 12 rushing attempts for 78 yards. We finally saw Jason Huntley do something, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's one great thing to take away from this season is that the Birds actually discovered their identity at the right point. Against the Lions, they finally discovered that, hey, we're great at running the ball. We have to run the ball. We have great running backs, and they pulled it off. I mean, every running back averaged over 4 yards per carry or 4 yards per carry on the dot, which is, to me, I feel like that's unheard of. It has to be some type of NFL record.
Yeah, it's just like a well-oiled machine. That's what you love, right? Is I feel like there's a couple teams where it didn't really matter. Yeah, I think this is similar to something you saw with the Colts. Is it didn't really matter what running back was in there. Obviously, they got Jonathan Taylor, who's fantastic. But even before that, they had Naeem Hines. Damn, I'm blanking. But they've had a stable of running backs, usually 3 deep, and they've just been able to churn out yards. So I love the fact that that's the case for the Eagles. Obviously, I still think Miles Sanders, having him healthy, provides that extra oomph. But man, Kenny Gainwell going forward looks good.
Absolutely.
He's still a rookie. There's some vision stuff that I saw, but looks really good. Jason Huntley, man, like regardless of whether or not he's running the football, I love him as a returner. There is that that spark that we just haven't seen. Like usually, I've just been like you're on your phone during the commercials, and then it's kickoff or kick return, and I'm just still looking at my phone, right? Like, but with Huntley in there, I feel like I was kind of like putting my phone down and be like, oh, like let's see what it'll do. It's exciting again, So
absolutely, I feel like DeAndre Carter back there again.
Yeah, for sure. Even Darren Sproles when he was returning kicks, sometimes like I don't know, that was exciting. And yeah, Ernie, good point. DeVonta Smith, new rookie record.
916 yards, I think it was. He ended up with. Wish he cracked the 1K, but really quick. So the Eagles, according to Ruben Frank, the Eagles are the first team in NFL history to have 5 players with at least 50 carries and a 4.3 yards average or higher.
Damn, good for them, man. And I mean, another franchise record that I feel like is being overlooked is the total rushing yards. I mean, that's huge, right? Like you think back to Shady days when they were running the football all the time. Even Westbrook, all that stuff. I mean, Curl Buckhalter, like the stables they've had in the past. This has been a good running team historically. So to set that record in Nick Sirianni's first year after weeks and weeks of like questionable running. I know that Jalen Hurts is contributing to that, but even still, like I wouldn't say this was a running team until week 5, week 6, right? And to set that record, it just goes to show how good they are when they're playing their game.
Absolutely. And it was great to honestly see Jalen Hurts taking the strides. I mean, at first a lot of people, myself included, were very frustrated with his play. He stuck to what worked as his strength later on in the season. They didn't rely on his arm, which was great. They relied on his legs more, but the potential of him being more than just a playmaker with his legs, it's there, and it's phenomenal to correct me, it's probably the wrong term, but it's phenomenal to fantasize about it. To actually think like, hey, like if this kid becomes a more accurate passer, if he gets his timing down with his receivers, if he gets his vision down pat, like he can actually be like a Donovan McNabb. He could be a Dak Prescott. He could be lethal in the NFL. We don't need a top 3 quarterback. Those guys, they're one in a million. But we just need a guy that's that's efficient enough to carry this offense to the playoffs, which he did. He carried a 4-11-1 team to the playoffs the next season when it was supposed to be a retooling, rebuilding year. So to see that happen, to me, it was phenomenal. And we are not going to slander Wentz on this podcast. Not that we're Wentz lovers. I just feel like we got to focus on what's actually happening with the Philly, not opposed to Indy.
Yeah. I mean, in a perfect position, really, I think Hurts. Like in a way, I was thinking back and I was looking back at the season. I know this is kind of moving into this season in review, and it almost seems like that first couple of weeks where they were passing the ball a lot, they're not really running the football. It almost seems like they knew in the back of their heads that they had some easier games down the road, and it was kind of like a stress test for Jalen Hurts, just seeing what he could do, what he can't do. Obviously, I still think that Giants game was a bit of a surprise, but it really does seem that they were testing him. Obviously, that's not as obvious to us as fans, but I think as the season went on, we really started to see like the coaching staff is starting to get it. I remember typing up an article to write about, and then like it didn't really go anywhere because it just felt like, and we were talking about this a lot as well, that it just felt like that relationship between Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts wasn't clicking, right? They weren't really playing to his strength. They weren't really doing what he does best. And I think that's kind of gone now. I really do think that Sirianni's kind of figured out how to work with Jalen Hurts. So it does seem like maybe, early in the season, that was just a stress test, seeing what he could do. But I think they're in a good place right now, offensively at least. Defense, another problem entirely. But that's probably a problem you fix in the draft. But yeah, it really does seem like Jalen Hurts is not just playing better, but is playing more comfortable. Finding stuff that he can do, and I mean what you're talking about with the ceiling. I think that, I mean, I think you can attest to this as well. But I've been pretty good at being middle of the road with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Not getting too excited, not getting too bummed out. And I still think the way to go is just to take advantage, regardless of whether or not he takes a massive jump. I think he's a quarterback you can win games with. You're already in the playoffs this season. So that's fantastic, right? Because if this is supposed to be a playoff team, then you can just ride him and then build around him. Eagles are in a great spot, I think, after this season.
I completely agree with that. And to kind of piggyback off what Phil Benson said in the chat, I'm on the mindset that I personally feel like that Dak Prescott is not trash overall. It's a pretty good quarterback. Who's made great strides throughout his career, and that's what I'm talking about when I speak about Jalen Hurts. But potentially, like, who's your comparison for Jalen Hurts going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think the obvious quarterback is Russell Wilson, but I just don't think he's the same kind of quarterback. I mean, I think that's the obvious comparison because of the stature, the mobility. Like, I do think that I see that in him. I think the difference where you're seeing is in his arm strength and his arm talent. Russell Wilson's always been a guy that can kind of just bomb it down the field and find receivers down there. I don't think that's going to be Jalen Hurts' game. He'll be able to do it, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's going to hang his hat on that. I think as a passer, like, it's hard to really put a comparison because usually the type of passer that Jalen Hurts aren't that mobile, right? They're the quarterback passers. They're going to dink and dunk. I think that the accuracy is really improved, especially on the run. I think that those couple of passes where you saw him, hit Devontae Smith, and I mean, he's making great catches. Don't get me wrong.
That pass to Greg Ward on the run as well.
Yeah, right, exactly. So these passes that we kind of saw him missing in the first part of the season, he's now hitting, and that just goes to show just how good he can be. But I don't really know that we've seen a quarterback like Jalen Hurts. Like, I'd almost go as far to say like maybe more of an RG3, but even that's kind of an odd comparison.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the prototypical mobile quarterback is like the Lamars, the Michael Vicks, the
Which
Russell
is weird
Wilson.
He's not a Michael Vick because Michael Vick was wildly accurate and had a cannon on an arm. Lamar Jackson is not known for his arm strength or his accuracy, to say the least. I still feel like
the football, right?
Yeah, he can sling it, but I feel like his story motion is a little off for me. Sure. But I do agree with the notion that you see a little Russell Wilson in him because you see that with his escapability. You see that with his leadership, which is huge. Like, people forget Russell Wilson came in the league and he was a game manager. This guy fell all the way down to it was the third or fourth round, and he was a game manager. He was relying on the Marshawn Lynch in the backfield. He was relying on the great run. Now Russell Wilson is one of the elite passers in the league because he kept on working on his craft. And Jalen Hurts looks like the type that's not going to let up on his craft, which is huge. And that's something to me that's enticing enough to say, like, hey, like, I'm excited for this kid's potential.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think obviously he's better, but like skill set wise, very similar to what the Dolphins have in Tua as well. Like, it's just an odd comparison for a quarterback because he's kind of more of a Phillip Rivers type when he's throwing the ball, right? Where it's he's not necessarily bombing it all the time. He has that ability, but I think like his projection as a passer is much more working on his accuracy and being able to dink and dunk down the field. I just think that suits him better. So I like it's a strange concept of having this guy with so much explosive potential as a runner, but as a passer, he's really not that. Like, usually it's explosive in both regards. Like, Lamar, even Josh Allen, right? Josh Allen, what's he known for? He's cannon, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So usually these kind of quarterbacks have that crazy arm strength, and I just think with Jalen Hurts, it's going to be a lot more technique that he's got to work on. The accuracy will come, but he's in the right offense for it, and that's something that we weren't sure of a couple weeks ago.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think the projection is going to be a bit strange. I think he's kind of carving a path of his own. But it's a really interesting path, and he's a fun player to watch.
I completely agree with that. I'm excited to see it. One thing that I'm excited to hear now is your breakdown on what you saw with the defense, because you're more the defensive, wizard in the podcast. You're the guy who focuses a lot on defense, and for some reason, defense really turns you on.
Yeah,
But we saw
we are.
progressions, a lot of up and down with this defense, a lot of weird adjustments, no adjustments, a lot of disguising and no disguising. Like it was just a mixed bag of weirdness going on. So what did you see from this defense on the starting point of the season to now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like what we had hoped of the offense and kind of finding their footing, we just never got from the defense. It's a bit hard to put a stamp on this season, just because even going into this game, even when they're in the playoffs, I don't know really what this defense can do. I don't know if Jonathan Gannon's the guy. I mean, I'm kind of surprised he's getting the interview with the Broncos. But Broncos love their defensive head coaches, and I think that there's something there for what he does as a developer still. Like that, I think that's really the key for this defense, is that we saw a lot of development. Like Avonte Maddox, I know that a lot of it can be attributed to him going back to the slot, but developed as a playmaker. Josh Sweat developed. TJ Edwards developed, right? Like TJ Edwards, we always kind of thought he was going to be that Jordan Hicks kind of player where, the league doesn't really respect him and he's better than most people think. But people forget that TJ Edwards missed a lot of tackles his first season. TJ Edwards made a lot of mistakes in coverage his first season. And, he's been a revelation this year. Still making, some mistakes, still missing some tackles, but been much better. And so I think that on the defensive side of the ball, that's really exciting, is seeing that development. And then even with the veterans, right? Like Darius Slay, we always knew he was good,
freaking
but
huge.
having an unreal season, right? So there is that sense of development. So I think if Jonathan Gannon stays, that's what I'm excited for. Is I think these young players are going to develop, and especially with 3 draft picks in hand, I'd say all 3 of them have a great possibility of being used on defense. I know you want a receiver, but at least 2 of those picks are probably going to be defense.
I'm cool with defense. Just really quick, I'm cool with defense as long as they pull a trade off for Calvin Ridley. Imagine having 2 route wizards in one offense.
Yeah,
just imagine the possibilities.
And I think that, we can talk about this too, but I think with Calvin Ridley, the exciting part is the explosive play potential. Like I know that Devontae Smith has it, but it's not really his game. Whereas Calvin Ridley, he's a wizard with the routes.
This is what they wanted out of Jalen Reagor. It's right there in Atlanta. You trade a second and a fourth for a second and third. You trade anybody, got to trade it just to get Calvin Ridley.
I just think you trade away Andre Dillard and then some picks. Like I think you can get him for that.
That's
I think he doesn't want to be in Atlanta. We'll see how the negotiations go. I think they'll probably want to get a deal done before the draft. But if it's after the draft, then like what power do the Falcons have? He doesn't want to be there. So
Houston Texans.
Now that being said, the Eagles won't be the only one calling the Falcons, but he's a great fit, and the Eagles have a lot of draft capital. I mean, I don't think it will take that much, but even if it's their latest pick, like the pick they're going to get from the playoffs, I'd be okay with it. I mean, he's a first round talent, no question. What receiver are you going to draft in the late first round that's going to be better than Calvin Ridley?
Exactly. That's key. And he's experienced. And on top of that, I mean, he has experience with Jalen Hurts or Devontae as well. I mean, they're from Alabama, unless Calvin's light years ahead of them. I forgot what year Calvin was drafted.
Yeah, I don't know if Hurts would have been starting at that point. Maybe he did. I mean, that's a good point.
I think Ben has the best trade proposal right now in all of Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Wide receiver Jalen Reagor for a low receiver Calvin Ridley.
It'll be a Falcons move to make, I feel like. But yeah, I mean, fantastic fit. Going back to the defense, I think this is something that everyone saw, is like scheme wise, I don't know how it's that much of an improvement. Like I don't know if I love the scheme.
What is the scheme? Can we actually acknowledge like that there actually is a scheme?
Yeah, I mean, coming into the season, we thought we were going to see a lot of cover one man on the outside, maybe some zone. And we've seen a lot more cover 2 zone and off coverage too. Like I think you have 2 corners that are pretty handsy, pretty physical. And we just haven't seen that. I think Darius Slay is kind of scheme versatile. It doesn't matter, right? It's going to be really hard to put him in a position where he's not good. But what's troubling the most is, and again, I think this is where you kind of can fix it in the draft, is, he's putting a lot of pressure on these linebackers to play coverage and to stop the run. I think the biggest kind of the back step is the defensive line. Not being in Jim Schwartz's scheme where it's just attack. I think we saw a bit of regression, and then the responsibility fell on the linebackers. And again, they're not great linebackers, but I just feel like you're not putting them in much of a position to succeed going, okay, this is our weakest group and we're going to make them do all these things. So, a first round pick might solve that problem right off the bat. Is Howie going to spend a first round pick on a linebacker? I'm not sure.
I feel like we don't stay with 3 first round picks. One way or another. Like I don't think we trade a first for Calvin Ridley. I think we could trade a second or a third. But I think we trade a first to get more for next year's draft. It's a Howie thing to do. And I feel like he's probably better off, because how we drafting 3 first rounders is going to be a little bit chaotic if they don't end up, coming through.
One of those is going to be a reach. Like you just know.
And to avoid that, you stick with 2. You move the others out of the stratosphere, and then you stick with 2. I have no idea why my chair was rolling back like that, but you stick with 2.
I mean, it happens, right? Chairs, you can, unpredictable. I don't know. I think that you, and then not you alone, but you have been talking about getting a receiver in the draft. And I feel like this kind of solves your problem, right? Is, trade for one.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm okay. Honestly, I'm okay if that's the first round pick that we're going to get from, like the one that's the Eagles' actual pick. It really sucks that, the Colts and Dolphins did as good as they did. Like, I mean,
for what? You guys didn't even reach the playoffs. Damn it.
Yeah, and like, the Dolphins are in a position where they almost made the playoffs and they fired their head coach who just went 8-1. Like, I really don't understand what the Dolphins are doing. Like, if they're gonna do that, then just tank, right? Like, I don't
do the Joe Judge way, tank and get fired.
Yeah,
we know he tanked that last game.
They almost kept, like, if they almost kept, like, that couldn't have been an actual conversation keeping Joe Judge. Like, I do not. He's terrible. I'm
terrible coach.
I'm fine with them keeping him. I would have loved that. Beat up on the Giants all the time. But I remember seeing Sean Bradley shared it. But, Lane Johnson had more receiving touchdowns than Kenny Golladay and Kadarius Toney this year. So, I mean, that's problematic.
A lot of people said Kadarius Toney was going to be the right pick in the first round. That was a reach. Let's call it what it was.
Yeah, I like him.
He's not a first round pick, though.
Yeah, I don't know that he's a first round pick. I think he's a high second round pick. But in that offense, man, on paper, I know they got offensive line troubles. Who knows what Danny Dimes is, but on paper, that's a good offense. So they might be, and I mean, we talked about getting flack on Twitter before about our predictions midseason, and I think that I took a bit of flack for thinking Washington's going to be a better team than they are. But I mean, watch out, man. I think this division in general, moving forward, is going to be a good division.
It's definitely gonna turn around and be higher, like what the NFC West was in this season. Really quick, so before we get to the raffle or the giveaway, Ben J has a question. Thought about Gannon being interviewed for head coach, which you mentioned earlier. Not against it, just because it's kind of like, if it happens, it happens. Whatever they see in him, they see in him. But it opens up a world of opportunities for us. Because you got Brian Flores out there. You have Vic Fangio out there. You have a lot of possible great defensive minds out there who are veteran coaches. Where you could bring in here, work with Sirianni, and make the defense even better than it was, and possibly more consistent than it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you get Brian Flores in the offseason as your defensive coordinator, you won the off. Like that's just
because his name is Brian.
Yeah, of course. I mean, why else would that be? But I think like the thing that I'm not sure of is regardless of the scheme, I feel like the players got to buy in a bit. And I think, it's definitely gotten better, but even, Fletcher Cox kind of publicly questioning, his role in the defense and, coming out and saying, I shouldn't be in coverage, stuff like that. I just don't know if this team is bought into Jonathan Gannon. So I think that's the reason why. Yeah, I think that that's the reason why I'm like kind of okay with him getting another interview. Is I just don't know if that changes. I think that he runs a good defense going forward, not a great defense. I don't think this defense will ever be great, and I think that that's kind of why. Is I don't know that some of the veterans on this team that you're counting on are buying in. I don't know that Fletcher Cox is ever going to like this defense. He'll play in it, but I don't know if he's sold. Like Ronnie McLeod for whatever he is taking a back step, and I just think that they're not quite bought in. But that's what Brian Flores does. Is you took this like Dolphins roster that had nothing. Yeah. It was a skeleton, and they bought in.
He's an absolute leader, and that's something that would be good for them to have in the locker room, especially with Sirianni. I mean, for him to come from an environment was so chaotic in Miami and doing what he did in Miami to come to this, it's a win.
They're kind of yin and yang too, right? As personality types. Like I know that behind the scenes, Nick Sirianni is kind of a more talkative, more assertive person, but on the outside looking in, it seems like they'd be a good pairing. Just kind of like I think that Brian Flores has a lot of business. Nick Sirianni likes to have fun, more personable. I just feel like it'd be a match made in heaven.
Behind the scenes, Nick Sirianni is the guy that plays beer pong all night, and Brian Flores is the designated driver. That's exactly what it is.
Designated driver that gives you like that solid drunk talking to that you needed to like kickstart your life. Yeah. I mean, and I think that that's one of those hires that like if you get him as your DC, whether or not it works out with Sirianni, you got a great head coaching candidate in-house. You got a fantastic defensive coordinator. Like you just give him like similar to how, when Peterson, wasn't going that great at certain points. We were like, oh, well, Jim Schwartz wasn't a great head coach before, but at least got options in-house. So like, I just feel like he's probably going to get another head coaching opportunity. I can't see him not. But maybe he's tired with that. Maybe he is fed up with being a head coach and wants to come be defensive coordinator in Philly. And I mean, I'd love that. That'd be fantastic.
I'm with it. I'm definitely with it. 1,000%. So for the past 2 days, we ran a giveaway.
Yeah. Shout out to DAWG Culture.
Just huge shout out to Mike Hill of DAWG Culture, who's a big fan of big friend of the podcast.
Yeah.
If you guys saw the episode with him, he's a cancer survivor who started this big movement of the dog culture, dog mentality. You saw Nick Sirianni embed in that dog mentality culture and brought it to Philly. And he actually reached out and said, hey, I have these new Eagles playoff hoodies, midnight green dog culture hoodies. I actually have one in my closet. Let's make something. It's super crisp. Let's make something happen with a giveaway. So why not? So we made a deal with our giveaway where if you guys retweet it and liked and commented 2 Eagles fans below, then you'll be inserted into the giveaway. You have an entry.
Yeah. You guys.
Siri on my iPad is going up. So you have an entry. So without further ado, I'm gonna spin the wheel live on the podcast so nobody thinks it's rigged.
It's exciting.
All right, it's an actual website. I'm not, this is not video. Like I don't know how to prove it's an actual website, but see my tabs open.
Don't read those tabs. Who knows what Brian's been up to?
Shh, don't say that. It's my secret. All right, so hopefully majority of you guys are in the chat. You guys can't really see the names, but let's go for it. It's not rigged, Doug. Duck. Well, damn, Duck doesn't have Twitter. All right. Here we go. Am I clicking it right? There we go. Yeah. Our winner is Chris Infante.
He's already got a hoodie, isn't he? One.
Here we go. Hey, so our winner is actually Bird Card Dad. So huge shout out to Sean. So Sean's actually been a fan of it. Was not rigged at all, which is funny. But Sean's been a huge follower of the podcast since the beginning. And, huge shout out to him. Converse once in a blue about his family as well. So I hope everything's going well with him. Sean, if you're in the chat, I will reach out to you later to get your information so I can send it to Mike. And he's going to send you your dog culture hoodie, midnight green. And
thanks, man. Yeah, dude, it's our pleasure, man. I'm happy. I'm happy you won. That's a great winner. I'm happy with that.
I'm super happy with that, man. That's awesome.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Hey, and thank you to everyone that joined.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that. Everyone that followed me on Twitter, because I know Brian's got all the followers already, but I'm still new to this. I'm trying to grow. So I appreciate that.
So really quick as well, after the season, possibly for the final season, I'm working with Liam. Possibly for the final season, we'll do an actual raffle on the podcast, live on the show. We'll get everybody who's commenting into the chat, raffled into the podcast, and we'll raffle something off PSN wise. So we'll work with that and get you guys all, suited up PSN. But we definitely have more to go. And shout out to Bird Game 31. Chat.
Yeah, hope you're doing well, man. Absolutely, we'll have another stream. It's always been a pleasure to have you on. So, yeah, congratulations, Sean, again, for those of you that are just tuning in now. Sean,
yeah, I'll reach out to you later, Sean, to get the information, and we'll get that moving to you.
Dope.
So the moment everybody's been waiting for. The podcast.
If you weren't,
we'll see you guys next week. Actually, really quick. So something funny happened over the weekend before we talk about Bucs and Eagles. So if you guys follow the podcast, and Morgan, after every show, you say "Go Birds" or Chris says "Go Birds," and I happen to react with "Yes, sir."
Yeah.
So I go to Dunkin' Donuts with my wife, and I'm in Dunkin' Donuts where I'm coming out, and this older lady holds the door for me. She's like, "Oh, Go Birds!" I'm like, "Yes, sir." I'm like, "Oh shit."
It's ingrained in there.
It's ingrained. Man. I did it with the full reaction. I'm like, "Yes, sir." I'm like, "Oh no,
yes, sir.
That's not it."
Yeah, you should be like a shout out Tick Pick for being our sponsor.
Presented by Tick Pick and Dunkin' Donuts Coffee.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, and also real quick before something that I'm excited about is the Eagles play the Lions next season. Now that's not that exciting, but they play in Detroit. So Morgan might get his first opportunity to see a live Eagles game next season.
You're going to Detroit next year.
I just close by, right? I can go to Buffalo. I can go to Detroit. They don't play Buffalo that often, so I'm excited. That's a real possibility.
Nice.
So I might actually be able to see an Eagles game. So that's also exciting for sure.
That's really nice, man. That's actually sick. Might have to make my way out there then.
Yeah, that'd be dope. I mean, Detroit's. It's not I want to see one in Philly, but hey, Detroit. Let's make it happen. If you guys
maybe if we all put our money together. Everybody whips out their piggy bank, put money together to get Morgan flown out to Philly or flown out to Tampa for this weekend.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Put the pressure on.
It's like $1,000 a person. I mean, come on, guys, fly me out to Tampa.
Hey, Ben said it's a good idea, so maybe you got a tailgating buddy right there.
Yeah, there you go, Detroit. I got a few buddies that go to Buffalo games, but Detroit haven't been to as much. Again, not ideal, but I'll take it.
Why not? So something that was not ideal to a lot of people out there, except for this guy. Eagles are in the playoffs. They made it to the wild card round. They face a somewhat a similar opponent. They faced the Bucs this season, and they're facing them again in the playoffs. The Bucs won 28-22, but this was before the Eagles actually found their identity. This was week 6, and I think the Eagles faced Detroit like 2 or 3 weeks after that. Bucs do have a great run defense. Eagles have a great run offense. What's gonna happen, guys? I mean, you guys could throw your predictions in the chat, but this is actually pretty interesting. You have a very well experienced coach, a super experienced quarterback versus an inexperienced team. Like Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith have been in the college playoffs, but outside of that, this is a different atmosphere. This is a different level, and you're facing probably the greatest quarterback of all time. What do what do the Eagles, in your opinion, have to do to be successful in this game?
I mean, even in the last couple of years, these wildcard games have been tough for the Eagles. They've been close, even when they do win. We had the Bears game, we had the Falcons game. So they're tough games, and I feel like this one's not any different. The reason I feel like they have some shot at success is exactly what you're talking about. I think this is a very different team than when they played before. It's coming out soon, I think, but I did a whole breakdown on the defensive side of the football, what the defense has to do. So I'll get into that as well. But I think on the offense, just that run game is going to be key. It's unfortunate it's in Tampa. I would have loved to see Tom Brady have to come play in the cold and this defense have to come play in the cold and face that run game. I do think it's an advantage that Tampa's playing at home, but the Eagles have been actually pretty good on the road. So I think that it's going to be all about like clock control, clock management. You can't give Tom Brady a lot of time because he will march down the field, but that's kind of it fits really well into what the Eagles want to do. And I think that on paper, it may seem like a one-sided matchup, but a lot of what Tampa Bay wants to do, the Eagles actually do well at. So on offense, obviously running the football, but I think that Jalen Hurts just has to play smart football. I say right now, like we just can't afford a turnover. If the Eagles turn the ball over on offense, that might just be game. It doesn't matter when it is. If it happens early, you still got a chance to recover, but can't afford any mistakes on offense. On defense, it's the same Tom Brady. I mean, he's fantastic. He's, the best quarterback of all time. But if you get pressure up the middle and you make him get rid of the ball early, and you can, play somewhat a decent zone on him and make him dink and dunk down the field, and make it hard on him, then you have a chance, right? You just can't allow those big Tampa Bay plays that they've been, known for. And I think that, not having Chris Godwin massive. They are getting Leonard Fournette back, it sounds like.
No Antonio Brown.
The big thing, I think the big X factor on the offensive side of the ball is going to be Gronkowski. They didn't have him the first time that the Eagles played the Bucs, and the Eagles have just been terrible at covering tight ends this year. So that's kind of my X factor. And then running the football on offense, I feel like if they can limit Gronkowski, and we can get more into it, but I think that those are kind of the keys. Run the football, stop Gronk.
So to me, this is going to be an interesting matchup because I don't see this being a blowout game by any chance or on anybody's account.
Right.
I don't see the Bucs blowing out the Eagles. I don't see the Eagles stretching the Bucs like that. This game, it gives me Chargers Eagles vibes because that's how smart Jalen Hurts has to be. To me, that was the smartest game that Jalen Hurts has ever played. The fourth quarter was phenomenal. And then let's not go overlook the fact that the Bucs did not score more than 7 points in the second half against the Eagles, which led the Eagles to get back into the game. If the Eagles start fast, which is super key, for some reason, every Philly team in the past 5 years has had an issue with starting fast. The Eagles have to start fast. You gotta force it down their throat with the run game. You gotta trust the run game, whoever it is. Not only that, but Jalen Hurts has to play smart. You've got to be efficient. If the pass isn't there, don't throw it. Throw it away. You live another down.
Yeah.
Sorry, Doug threw me off. Yeah, they did slow down because they did have the lead. But hey, I mean, holding the Bucs down to only one touchdown in the second half is pretty big, especially when you're catching up. I mean, they only lost by 6.
Well, and people forget how close that game was. There's a couple of PIs that the refs missed, and then there's that taunting penalty at the end.
There was about 5 of them, I think.
Well,
close 4 or 5.
2 really bad ones. There's one on Jalen Reagor and then one on Quez Watkins in the end zone. But yeah, a couple penalties, and that was the Eagles are driving down with a chance to win it.
Another thing, you got to trust the run game, whoever it is. If you're without Miles Sanders because of the broken hand, if you're without Jordan Howard, Kenny Gainwell to me deserves a shot. He's been efficient when he's given the ball. Trust Kenny Gainwell. Trust Boston Scott. Run it down the throats. If it doesn't work first time, keep trying. Because you got to make it work at some point. That's your bread and butter. You have to make sure that's the way you win. And the way to win with the run game is you keep Tom Brady off the field. If Brady's on the field for less than your offense, then you have the advantage right there.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing is something that they don't like to do, but they did against Dallas. Focus on targeting Devontae Smith. He's your best receiver. Focus on targeting Dallas Goedert. He's your best tight end. Those two guys, the passing game should run through them. Mm-hmm. There's nobody on the Bucs defense that's going to be able to handle both of them at the same time. I mean, I think they probably get Levante back, but they have no corners right now. Correct me if I'm wrong. Richard Sherman's not coming back, and nobody else is there to really stop it. This is a very beatable Bucs team, but a beatable Bucs team if you play smart. This game is going to be the signature game for Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. This is where you get measured. Depending on how you react in this game, if you keep the lead, if the Bucs win 24-21, nobody's going to be mad. Nobody. Philly made it to the playoffs when they shouldn't have. and they kept it close. But if you beat the Bucs 27-24, which is the prediction I'm going with, if you beat the Bucs 27-24, then you played smart football.
Mm-hmm.
At least in my opinion, because you held them below the amount of touches that they last scored on you guys.
Looks like Levante David, he's not coming back, but they do get Shaquille Barrett back.
Okay.
So yeah, but looking on offense, okay, I feel like Miles Sanders obviously would be a huge loss. But doesn't it just feel like a game where Dallas Goedert kind of just takes over? Like it feels like one of those games where Dallas Goedert just has 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. I know that what's probably going to happen is that Shaquille Barrett, is hovering around him. But like, I just think this is one of those games where, and we've seen it for a long time, Dallas Goedert is not just a physical monstrosity. The route running is fantastic, man. Like it's almost Ertz-like. It's really good, and I just don't think there's anybody in the league that can really cover him one-on-one. Like he's either going to outmuscle you or he's going to outrun you, and I just feel like this
receiver. He's Gronkowski in his prime. Like to me, like that's who he is right now. The athletic. Damn, what's wrong with my words today? The athletic ability. It reminds me so much of Gronk-esque. He's not as big as Gronk, but like you said, they can't tackle him. They can't bring him to the ground, and there's no ball that's outside of his. Of his
He's kind of like that new age, longer. Not maybe quite as much, but yeah, like just dominant, right? And he really can be. We've really only seen glimpses. He had that really good game where he finally broke 100 yards, but it just feels like one of those games where he's just been itching. But I think, like you said, man, it's all predicated on the run game, right? Mm-hmm. It's and here's the thing: is I know Vita Vea, he's really good. You can't move him, but the Eagles don't really need to. That's the whole point of this Eagles run game is, Jason Kelce's mobile. Okay, let Vita Vea come down the line, and then you go outside of him. And that's another thing that we saw against Dallas, even in the last couple of weeks that we really haven't seen is for a long time. I know we were talking about it for a while. Is like we weren't pitching the football. There's no outside runs. It's all inside. And so even against Dallas, that's what we saw more of. How many times did Kenny Gainwell break it to the outside for some yards? Right? And so the Eagles are starting to be able to do that. And I just feel like, it was hard to see early on in the season, but this run game has been slowly developing, and now we're starting to see all the intricacies, all the multiple options they do have. Is like it's not the same Eagles offense where it's the same run play 4 times in a row because it works. It's we're running that play once because there's another and there's another play off of that that's just gonna be like they're and like it. This is a weird play to bring up, but like, for example, there's a reason why they keep running the football to Jalen Reagor on reverses. There is going to come a time where they do not hand that ball off to Jalen Reagor and it's, a zone left and it works. Right. So all of this has been building up. And I feel like this is where we see, the final form essentially of the Nick Sirianni offense. And Voltron. I just feel like, yeah, exactly. 100%. And like that's where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have shown chinks in their armor is they're supposed to be a really good run defense. And there have been certain teams like the Cowboys, were able to run all over them.
Didn't the Giants beat them at one point or the Redskins beat them? I mean, Washington football team.
Washington football team. So Washington football team, the Saints held them to 0 points. It beat them.
Let's not forget, the Eagles beat the number 1 rushing defense in the league this season.
Yep.
Very convincingly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just feel like that's what it is, right? Is they're so multiple. You can prepare for one thing and they'll just do another, and that's really the genius of Nick Sirianni coming out. And I even myself was doubting that early on in the season, and it's really coming out. I think moving to the defensive side of the ball. There's also opportunities. And this is weird to say because I feel like this defense, really isn't that good. Let's be honest. They're not.
What defense? Our defense or the Bucs defense?
The Eagles defense.
Our defense is number 1 in the league. What are you talking about right now?
Right, exactly. But they do a couple things really well. I think we're going to see Darius Slay shadow Mike Evans. So that's their best receiver taken out. He had 20, 30 yards The
I'm
last time
checking
they
that
played.
right now, actually. Man,
Yeah,
what the
it
hell am
wasn't
I?
it wasn't much. It was Antonio Brown that really got us, and then the combo of the tight ends. So I think OJ Howard and Cameron Brate had
Mike
like
Evans had 27 yards, and Antonio Brown had 93.
yeah. And then I think so Cameron Brate and OJ Howard had like a combined 9 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown or something like that.
Yeah, 75 yards.
Yeah.
Damn, you got this. Where you got this written down? Let me see the
Oh,
desktop over here.
no, I was doing an article on defense. So yeah, I'm all
Yeah.
prepped. So a couple things, and I'll just summarize what's going to come out, and then you guys can read when it comes out. I'm sure I'll put it on the Twitter, but it's really interesting stuff, man. And the key is going to be really clogging up the center of the defense. So the Saints, the reason why they had success is Malcolm Jenkins. That's really it, right? So they had Malcolm Jenkins
Shout out to
Gronk.
the former Eagles great. You have a moment of silence for Malcolm Jenkins because I love Malcolm Jenkins.
Absolutely. Here, we can do that.
Okay, back where we were.
All right. Yeah, and then so Malcolm Jenkins against Gronk over like historically has been fantastic. I think he's allowing 29 yards a game, a pass rating of something in the 30s, like just been fantastic. So that's what they did. They played single high, and they had Malcolm Jenkins take away. What Washington did, I mean, Jonathan Allen was the key. He's just pushing
a game wrecker.
Yeah, exactly. And so what they were able to do is push the pocket in the middle and then just clog up the center, make them throw to the outside. And that's what the Eagles, I think, are going to have success doing. You clog up the middle. You don't have to have studs at the linebacker position. They just have to take up a lot of space. And that's something that TJ Edwards has been able to do the last couple weeks. And then you let Mike Evans and Darius Slay go at it on an island. I'd take Darius Slay 9 times out of 10 on that matchup. He shut him down the last time they played. And those two players, as good as Mike Evans is, I take Darius Slay on that. And then who are you worrying about on the other side, right? You got Scotty Miller not doing much. They have
Brashard Perryman as well. But he hasn't done anything.
Tyler Johnson, Cyril Grayson, right? Like just I don't really, they might rack up yards, they'll make catches, but not really game breakers. So the one guy you got to worry about is Gronk in the middle. It's worrying, but I feel like as a team, it's going to take a big game. Avonte Maddox, I think you might see play some man coverage on Gronk. He was good against Kyle Pitts, but that's just a size matchup, and I think that Brady can exploit that. The other thing you might see is some safety coverage, but again, Anthony Harris, Rodney McLeod, just not a great tandem this year, so that's what I really worry about. Talking about the run game, exactly. Talking about the run game, Leonard Fournette has been great. Here's the thing with Leonard Fournette: 0.6 yards after first contact, open field yards. So he's going to get you 4 yards of carry every single time. But the Eagles, I don't know if you remember this, the Eagles could not tackle Leonard Fournette.
No, yeah, I clearly remember that.
Yeah, I remember Alex Singleton getting blown over by him.
Yes, I hate the diving tackles from Alex Singleton so much. Yeah. It pisses me off when he dives for these tackles. Like, bro, just stay on your feet, see if you can get a little hand on him. That's it.
Yeah, but I think TJ Edwards, immediate upgrade.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think that they can contain him. We're gonna need a big game from Fletcher Cox. That's what it's gonna take.
And Javon Hargrave, they gotta wake up.
And Javon Hargrave, absolutely. But you keep this offense in 3rd and long situations, and they're really just aiming for the sticks. So there's this cool new stat that Football Outsiders does. It's called Alex. It's average. Anyways, it essentially says like how much the difference between what's needed for a first down and the target. And Tom Brady is like 1.7 yards. So like when they need a 3rd down, he's just aiming for the sticks. They're not making many big plays on 3rd down. All their big plays are coming on 1st and 2nd downs. And when it is 3rd down, it's Mike Evans. So, there's a chance here, and it's a really good chance. I feel like the Eagles can show up and play well.
All right. So, what is your prediction for Sunday afternoon football?
I mean, can they pull it off?
You asking me your prediction? This is your prediction. I got my prediction.
No, I know. I mean, all right. That's fair. Yeah, I think it's like a 27-24 game. I think that's the score. I'm having trouble saying the Eagles win.
Okay.
I think the Bucs still pull it off, but I think it's like 27-24, 31-27, something like that. But I mean, there's a good chance, man, and I hate that I have to say that and be reasonable, but it is Tom Brady.
So, not long ago, the Eagles went to New Orleans as the underdogs. Nobody expected them to win that matchup, especially after the double doink. But we were one catch away from possibly going back to the NFC Championship game.
Mm-hmm.
This has that written all over it. Legendary quarterback, great offense, legendary coach, good defense. Eagles can't do this. Eagles can't win. They won't be able to pull this off. But there's something different about this Eagles team. They had the swagger. They have the mental oomph. They have the cojones to go into Tampa and just drop it down and just walk out with their head high. I personally believe that the Eagles can win this game. But I'm right next to you. You want to pick the Eagles because you're an Eagles fan, but you also know, like, hey, it's Tom Brady. But this has the making of a legendary game for Nick Sirianni. This is a statement win that is needed. You win this game, you go to the next round, you lose to Green Bay. I don't care. That's you made it to the freaking wild card and you knocked out the Bucs. So that means I don't gotta watch Tom Brady on my television for Super Bowl again.
Yeah. 100%.
You did me two favors. You proved that you are a great coach coming into your own finally. And you took Tom Brady off my TV. And they have it. Like Sean said, they had the cojones. They got it, bro. Devontae Smith. We didn't go into New Orleans with a Devontae Smith. We didn't go into New Orleans with a well-groomed Dallas Goedert. We didn't go to New Orleans with a well-groomed running game. This has the makings of a huge upset. If any upset is going to happen this weekend, it's Philly. And I'm with you, 27-24. It could go either way, but it's going to be such a tight game.
Yeah, I agree.
27-24.
Now, dare we talk about what happens if they go into this game and they're competitive? Obviously, that's massive. If they go into this game and they're not competitive, does it change your outlook on the season?
No, absolutely not. If they go into this game and they're not competitive, it's just because the Bucs were a better team. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
they made it to the dance.
And you can't argue with that. Like, the Bucs are a better team. There's no question. But that kind of stuff doesn't matter in the playoffs. Man,
it doesn't.
I wish somehow this was in Philly. This would be a completely different game if it was in the cold and it was in Philly. I would have loved that. Although it might have been the Lenny, the Lombardi Lenny show where he just runs all over everyone.
Yeah, let's not go through that though. Listen,
do you know if top 10 in yards after catch?
Who?
Leonard Fournette. Maybe he's like 12, but he's top 20 for sure.
They heavily used him in last year's playoff run. Heavily used him in the catch. I mean, in the passing game. Mm-hmm. So I would not be surprised they do that again. But you got to be 10 steps ahead of not even Bruce Arians. I feel like Bruce Arians is an overrated coach. You got to be 10 steps ahead of Tom Brady, huh?
It's a really simple offense. Like,
it is a very, very basic offense.
It's not like they do level. They would do like a levels concept. They do like a split, like a crosser, and then they just do verts. That's like their offense. That's what they do.
Very, very basic offense, and it's very, very beatable. Now, we're at the 53-minute mark, so we're going to close the podcast soon. But first and foremost, I want to thank everybody that's in the chat because of you guys, we actually won Podcast of the Year with PSN.
Oh, yeah.
So huge shout out to all of you. No, yeah. I haven't even mentioned.
Cheers to you, Brian, too. So we'll do a little cheers. I don't have a drink. We should have a drink.
I got tea over here. I think it's tea's giving me a headache though. But yeah, shout out to all of you guys that have been listening and have been, subscribing to PSN. We really, 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 really thank you guys. Shout out to Joe Vega who's on here. We hope you're doing well. So again, it's a huge testament to you guys because we bust our butts week in, week out. Me and Morgan have probably like 1 million conversations a day about how we're going to get the podcast better, what we're going to present to you guys on Instagram, on Twitter. Also, be sure to follow our Instagram page. It's at Flippin the Birds Pod.
It's looking pretty, man. Brian's been
very nice.
doing all the graphics. It's looking good, man.
A little Kelly Green for your life.
Yeah.
So a huge shout out to you guys. But yeah, I just really wanted to say. I mean, we haven't had a chance to celebrate, and obviously, a huge shout out to Chris, who actually won fan MVP
and
PSN Eagles Writer of the Year, but fan vote.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you've heard who won Writer of the Year, but I believe that was our own Brian. Was it not?
I did. Yeah, I won PSN Eagles Writer of the Year from the company, which is pretty dope. I wasn't expecting. I was actually in the shower when that happened, so
Congratulations, man. Well deserved.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, we're starting to be a legit pod. We're doing giveaways. We got a sponsor now, Instagram. Well, I mean, we've had sponsors in the past, but 2022, man. 2022 is the year.
It definitely is the year, and
bring your friends.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you guys for sticking around. Honestly, putting up with our nonsense half the time. This year will be a good year. If the Eagles lose, next podcast will be our last podcast of the season. We'll take a little break. Kind of go on a little hiatus and come back around February, March.
Draft season. Yep. I'm so excited.
Talking prospects. Chris should actually be back as well. Towards the middle, probably towards I was like it's towards training camp. Chris should be back. So shout out to him. He's been focusing on his family, focusing on his job as well. But yeah, we appreciate you guys more than ever. Honestly, I'm out of words for how appreciative we are.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
I mean, I just want to keep talking to Eagles. So I really hope they win. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, so, geez, man. This weekend I work Saturday, Sunday. The one time slot where I'm still at work for the playoff games is the 1:00 game.
Sunday?
Yeah. It sucked. I was like, oh man, I'm still gonna.
I was off.
I'm still gonna be able to catch it, but I was literally any other time slot I would have been fine. So of course, but yeah. Chris is good, man. Duke's asking how Chris is. Chris is good.
Yeah, he's actually doing really good. He's doing well.
Brian's been bumping elbows with him everywhere, and he's good. We're looking forward to having him back.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pressing on him. I'm working with his wife. I'm negotiating this. I'm trying. We both want him back on the pod. Morgan wants back on the pod. But listen, and a huge shout out to what's it called? Ben J. calling. Huge shout out to El Paceto, John, who has been such a big help. Every time that either Morgan or myself or even Chris was down, John showed up to the call, which was it's huge. And he loves talking birds with you guys. We're trying to get Liam on the podcast. I wanted you guys to know this. I've been trying all season, and I hope one of you guys tag him in this, in the comments in here or on Twitter. If you guys can, whoever has Twitter, tag him and say, we need you on Flipping the Birds. I need to see that somehow, some way. Just tag him. I've been trying to get him all season.
Come support your best podcast, right? That's all. That's all
you got to do. That's all you got to do. Just come on the show. But no, I think he's a little under the weather today. But I'm trying, guys. I'm trying my best to get Liam. He's the hardest person to get. We've had Sean Bradley. We've had Mike Hill. We've had writers from other podcasts. But Liam is the most difficult person.
Lance Zerline,
Yeah. We've had big people, and Liam's the biggest one. And he's the hardest one to get. But yes, Doug, he is on draft specials. But he's also working on something really big with PSN. So make sure you guys stay tuned with that as well. But yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Win or lose. If it's a loss, we have a very big podcast plan for you. If it's a win, you got me and Morgan. And then whenever they get a loss, we have a big podcast plan for you.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah.
Man, I mean, is there anything else let's say? Then
congratulations again to Sean. Huge shout out to you. I'll hit you
up
later, man.
Absolutely. But yeah, man, I feel like go Birds. I mean,
it's like you don't want to end because if the podcast ends, you're closer to the game. And if you're closer to the game, you're closer to a possible loss. There's a lot of emotions going through right now. It's a lot.
I mean, it's gotta be a win. I changed my prediction. It's a win. 40-0. That's what I mean. It's gotta be.
I'm rocking with 27-24 Eagles. In my heart, that's what I'm rocking with.
All right.
Yeah, let's see.
I like that score too. I mean, every time I don't think we've been right on a score yet. We've been close, absolutely. Yeah. But I mean, when you say 27-24, it's 28-25, something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're close, but Yeah,
Philly,
but I think
27-24 or 31-27, one of those two.
they cover the spread. I mean, we see it in the chat. They cover the spread. You can write that down. Write it in pen, take it to the bank. They'll cover the spread at least. I think spread's 8.5. Like they're covering that for sure.
Possibly. I mean, depends. Morgan drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, 8.5. They should cover that.
Let's see what happens. They are the underdogs, which you guys know what happens when the Eagles are the underdogs.
Mm-hmm. You got
different
a dog
era,
mask?
but same montage.
You bought one of those dog masks?
No, absolutely not.
No.
I already look like a dog. I'm good. I got the dog look too.
Yeah, I'm the same boat.
But I will wear my dog culture hoodie. And if Sean's hoodie arrives in time, he'll also wear his. We gotta get you a dog culture hoodie somehow, somewhere.
It's shipping, man. It's shipping. Shipping
it's a weird
sucks.
thing.
I've been looking up like all this kind of stuff, PSN stuff too. And it's just like, it's just
we need
like
you to get out of there. Come home.
Yeah.
Come to Philly.
Yeah. Come home.
Oh God. All right, guys. Well, this podcast was brought to you by TickPick. Make sure you guys, if you're going to Tampa, use TickPick in the description below. Click on the link. That's our code, and you get better seats for better prices without the fees. So you're not telling your wife that $200 tickets actually cost $400. You're actually paying $200 for the tickets.
Every time you say better seats, better prices, I just want to say Papa John's afterwards.
I swear that was in my head, and I was so close to popping it out. But
yeah, better seats, better prices, Papa John's. I mean, it just.
I think that's where it's coming from too. Like that whole slogan is from Papa John's.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have to start Papa John's, but we're taking your slogan.
There we go, rocking with it, Peyton Manning. But yeah, I'm Morgan Burkett. Wow, I'm Bryan Cameron. Oh God, what a start to the year. I'm Bryan Cameron. He's Morgan Burkett, and we're flipping the birds.
Hey, go Birds.
Yes, sir.